So today's video is going to be a combination of two things. Today's video is going to be the run of the week, and I also want to ask the question, are dogs magical, or do dogs have some kind of magical powers? The story that comes to mind when I thought about this topic, or what inspired me to make this video, it was actually a couple weeks ago now. My buddy and I were in the wagon and we were driving down the road. We were actually already dispatched on another run. This is early in the morning. It was the first run of the day. We're driving down a major street, about to drive right by one of these side streets, and we heard a run get dispatched. The run said, you know, running southbound on this street is a 67-year-old woman who is naked and confused, and caller wants her checked on. We looked up at the cross street. We were basically there. So we turned north on this street. God knows why there's a 67-year-old woman running naked down the street. Could be a variety of reasons, but it's not something that needs to happen. This is probably somebody that needs help. So rather than continue on the run that we were on, we decided we were going to go on this run. So as we're driving up the road, my partner, I was driving, my partner was on the passenger seat. He swivels the computer around, he clicks on it, and he says 6 to 7-year-old boy, and then it said down the list, like, not sure if it's a boy or a girl, but the way the dispatcher read the run, it sounded like a 67-year-old woman down the street. So now we're looking for a 6 or 7-year-old boy running down the street naked, and I'm looking way up the road because there was an address we were given. It was up a little bit further north, and my partner, he goes, "Hey, he's just there on the left," and I look over, and there is a little boy, probably 6 or 7 years old, completely naked, running down the street directly towards me. So I stopped the wagon in the middle of the road and got out. As I get out, this little boy comes running up to me and just hugs onto me, grabs onto me. It was obvious that he was a nonverbal autistic kid. He had drool coming down his mouth was hanging open, he was doing weird things with his hands. He would kind of look at you for a second but look away, was not talking, was very, very excited, was unable to communicate. He would kind of respond to commands but not really. We knew what we were dealing with, and he was running around with a dog. This dog was like a pit bull mix, is running around with him, and this dog is panting, his eyes were wide open, his ears were sticking up, and and he was just staring at this kid. Everywhere the kid went, he was gonna go. Everything that the kid did, he was gonna do. When I got out, this kid hugs me, and he's naked. So I opened up. Well, the door of the truck was already open, and he runs for the truck. I was like, "Hey, good idea, naked kid. Let's get him off the street. You want to get in the truck? Go ahead and get in the truck." Well, he climbed up on my seat. And then I'm looking around for other people, and I'm also looking for this dog because I didn't know how the dog was going to respond. And then I hear the air horn of the truck. I look over, this boy climbed up over my seat and was standing on the center console of the wagon with his foot on the air horn, just going, waking up the entire neighborhood. The best part about it was that my partner, this all happened so fast, because I threw the truck in park and jumped out. My partner was still trying to get his clipboards and stuff settled. He was still sitting down. So this 6 or 7-year-old boy was standing with his junk like right here in my partner's face. So he like jumps out of the truck, and we're trying to get this kid to sit down, even though we didn't want his naked butt sitting down in our seat. What are you gonna do? You know, this kid needs help. So, but the kid wasn't gonna listen. He climbed right out of the truck. And the dog that was with him ran around the truck and is with him. Now they're in the middle of the street. Dog's kind of keeping his distance from us. Like if we went to pet him, he wasn't letting us pet him. He wasn't growling at us or anything. You could tell he was just very excited, and he was terribly focused in on this kid. It seemed like the dog was worried about this kid. So we figured that the door got left open. Maybe somebody opened the door to let the dog out, didn't notice that their kid ran outside too, and the kid got out of the gate, and the dog stuck with the kid, because that's very common, you know. Especially, and we had talked about how they're so connected. Like, this dog must be his emotional support animal, you know. We were talking about all these different things amongst ourselves. And so now we've still got this naked kid who's nonverbal, drooling, doing things with his hands out on the street. We're trying to figure out how to get him out of public. I go to the back door of the wagon, I open it up, and I tell him, hey, come on, get in the truck, get in my truck. And he was all excited. He climbed right up in the truck. We tried to get him to sit down. He wouldn't sit down. He ended up sitting on the floor on the bottom of the truck. We couldn't get him to sit on a bench. And then he kept trying to get out, and we'd hold him in. He wouldn't fight us, but he wanted to get out. He wanted to run around. And we said, hey, we'll get your dog. So I turned to the dog. I'm like, come here, bud. I go over and I didn't grab it physically. I think I might have put a hand on it. Kind of let him. I'm like, come on, bud. Get in the truck. Get in the truck. This dog just runs right up in the back of the wagon. So the kid just sits down. The dog goes behind him. So the dog was putting the kid between us. And the dog's standing over there, kind of looking over the kid's shoulder at us, tongue hanging out, panting, terrified. But the dog was in the back of the wagon with the kid, and we felt that everything was going to be okay. So we had an ambulance come, some neighbors came out, gave us some clothes for this kid. So now we have a situation where we have a little boy. He can't tell us where he's from, can't tell us where he lives, can't tell us his name, can't tell us anything, and we have his dog. And we asked all the neighbors if they knew where the kid and where the dog belonged, and nobody did. There's everyone on the street had come out and talk to us. We'd probably been on scene for about an hour. We couldn't figure out where this kid lived. I told the dispatchers to look up previous missing persons runs, calls about maybe an autistic kid that had lost control, maybe violent interactions, just all the typical things that all the possibilities, for ways that we could find out where this kid lived. And nothing was working. So we ended up having to call animal control to come get the dog. And we called for a cruiser to come by, and we had the kids sit in the back seat of a cruiser. We put a seatbelt on him. My partner jumped in the back seat on the other side with this kid to keep him calm. That cruiser was on the way to Children's Services, and I was going to follow in the wagon. The animal control wasn't there yet for the dog, and we didn't have any more officers, so we felt horrible about it. But we were like, we have to leave this dog. And we had when we put the kid in the cruiser, the dog tried to get in the front seat, and the dog was like jumping up on, looking in the window of the cruiser, where the driver was sitting, and like this dog was distraught that he couldn't go with this kid. But we figured, this dog's probably smart enough. I'm sure this has happened before. I know personally that my dogs, when they get loose, they find their way home, because I have a dog that likes to eat fence boards and get out. So it happens. It's a hood dog. He probably knows how to get home. So we went ahead and took off. The parents didn't call in for about another hour to report their kid missing, which the kid was already at Children's Services. And when something like that happens, Children's Services is going to go make a house visit. This particular day, Children's Services went out to the house. They tried to talk to the parents, and then they immediately went back and called for police to respond. I wasn't one of the officers that responded, but the officers that did respond went back out to this house. Unfortunately, they had to remove 7 other children from this house. Another child was in a similar position on the spectrum as the first one that we encountered. They had to remove all these kids from the house. So while that was going on, the parents seemed kind of oblivious to what was going on. They didn't understand. But there was no working refrigerator in the house. There was no working toilets in the house. The kids didn't have beds. They were sleeping on the floor, covered with blankets. It was disgusting. There was rotten food on the counters. It was like a hoarder situation. It was not a livable situation for these kids. The officers trying to make small talk with the parents said, hey, did your dog make it back? And the parents said, what are you talking about? Our dog was never gone. Only our kid was gone. Our dog was in the backyard the entire time. And they looked out. They showed the officers their dog. And this was not the dog that was with the child earlier in the day. So that leads me back to my original question. Are dogs magical? Because we had a boy who was nonverbal, autistic, running down the street naked, drooling all over the place, unable to care for himself, unable to tell anybody anything. And apparently there was a stray dog in the neighborhood that found him and was running along with him and was terrified of what was going to happen to this boy. just one of those crazy situations that you wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it. So I walk away with the conclusion that dogs are in fact magical. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later.